One of the best things that you can do when teaching a drumline is to actually ask more questions rather than give direct answers of things to work on. Even though it's more efficient in the moment for you to give direct feedback like, hey, your flam grace note spacing was a little too wide there. If instead you were to ask students, what do you think about the grace note spacing in what you just played? And then like, well, I don't actually know. I wasn't actually thinking about that. And then like play through it a couple of reps and be like, okay, was it too wide? Was it just right? Or was it too closed and too flat? So if you ask questions like that, what it's going to do is it slows down your rehearsal time. But when they're at home practicing, they will continue to ask themselves questions like that. So they'll actually get better outside of rehearsal because they don't need your guidance as much as if you just sit there, teach by rote every single time. Hey, you did this wrong. Hey, you did this wrong. Hey, you did that wrong. That is in the long run going to slow you down than going, hey, what did you think about that? Or what about your diddle spacing right there? What did you think about your dynamics and your heights right here? How did your balance fit in with that person's balance or did it not? Etc. Some people don't know how to practice. So you might need to just like sit down and help them figure that out, either one-on-one or as a section. Run your sectionals where you're teaching people how to practice, how to break things down. Isolate out your hands and make it so that you can refine just your right hand. Okay, now just refine your left hand, or how to break down like a flam drag, etc. If you do want to help them to understand how to actually get better, one of the things that you can do down the lines, everybody play, one person play. Everybody play, the next person play. Everybody play, the next person. Just like keep looping something over and over. That can be a reflective practice for individuals to hear, oh, when I play it on my own, it doesn't sound very good. Another thing you can do is you can do the opposite of that, where you have everybody play and then everybody but one person play. On the rep where they are not playing, have them listen to it and just kind of like visualize themselves playing it without actually physically playing whatever it is that you are working on. That can help them realize, oh, it actually sounds cleaner when I'm not playing. One of the best pieces of advice that I got from Glenn Crosby about how to teach a drumline is to not just think about what you're going to say, but how you're going to say it and when you're going to say it. That is more important sometimes than just like, I'm going to give feedback on every single little tick that was made. Like, hey, you did this wrong. Hey, you did that wrong. Hey, you did this wrong. That in the long run is just going to give them too many things to think about. They might get overwhelmed, especially if you're working with younger players. Rather than just like sitting back, give them a few reps to work on something, then pose a question or say, hey, this time let's focus on X, Y, or Z. Some of the best performers in the world are just terrible educators. They have no idea how to teach. But they can play. And then sometimes it's vice versa. Like some really good educators who are just phenomenal working with students don't know how to play very good. You got to kind of find a middle ground where you know what you're talking about and you can actually teach it. Some people lean more towards one direction than the other. I myself have had injuries that prevented me from playing. I was like, if I had like permanently injured myself, I would not be able to be involved in music if I was a bad educator. So I focused more on the education side of things rather than just the performing side of things. So I have seen a lot of drumline staff get pretty lazy when they become an instructor. They just like sit there drinking their lemonade in the shade while everybody's out there actually working. When I was teaching, if the students were standing, I was standing. If they were working, I was working. If they had like conditioning to do, like running, push-ups, squats, whatever, I was doing that with them. It had to do like with respect, but also modeling the kind of effort that I wanted to see. I really have not been a fan of instructors who would make comments like, you guys are lazy, or you're not putting forth enough energy, and they're literally just sitting there doing nothing, like the staff member is. It's like, okay, you're calling me lazy while I'm out here working 12 plus hours a day and all days, and you are sitting there doing nothing, and I'm the lazy one? It doesn't go well, so I don't recommend that, generally speaking. When it comes to working with a college line, there's a lot of weird expectations for that. It's kind of like high school, but honestly, there's like even a wider range of abilities of performers. You have some people who are literally studying it like as their degree, and then there are people who are just there because they're like, I want to go to football games for free. Tailor your expectations to understand that this is not going to be like DCI or WGI, but that doesn't need to detract from your performance and your abilities as a player. If you are still playing good and the majority of the line is still playing good, but you have a person who makes it sound dirty, it's okay. You're going to have a wide range of different people who are going to be in an ensemble for different reasons. It gets narrower the more money people pay for it. So like when I taught graduate courses, whether it was like the master's students or like the doctoral students, those people wanted to be there. They were willing to do the research. They were willing to do whatever they needed in order to get better at the thing. Undergrads sometimes wanted to be there. Other times they honestly thought they knew more than the professors, which was kind of funny because it's like, I had the job you want and you have zero experience in that. that and you think you know more than me? Okay, interesting. And then when it comes to like K-12, people are sometimes forced to be in the classes. Like a counselor signed them up for it and they had no interest in being in a music class. You got to consider that as well. I became a better drummer as I started teaching more students. So I've taught every grade kindergarten through doctoral student. That's in like group settings, but also taught privately musicians as young as like 5-year-old up through like college students. All those different experiences make you look at something from different angles and try and explain things that you might subconsciously understand. So it's a great way to actually improve your musicianship is to actually go and teach a wide variety of students across different grade levels, different age levels, different like ability levels, etc. So I highly recommend it. What should you include and what should you not include in your warm-up packet? It really depends on what your warm-up goals are. So for example, if you're in DCI, your warm-up packet might show off some of the things that you can do, and that will get shared on social media and it'll make more people want to audition because they want to play like the really cool exercises. However, if you are not like a top 5 drumline, what you really should focus on is like the educational side of things as like your primary reason for doing a warm-up. So when it comes to high school drumline warm-ups, like there's a lot of things to consider with it. One of them is, what exactly are you trying to do with this? Is your goal to improve the show music? Is your goal to improve overall musicianship? Is your goal to prepare percussionists for future things that they are going to be performing, like on future drumlines or in future percussion ensembles, etc.? If you do not have flams in your show, but you'd like to have flams in a future show, or if they are planning on drumming for WGI or DCI line, then maybe you should include flam exercises to help prepare them for that long term. Is the exercise going to be very technical and just focus on the improvement side of things, like all very basic exercises, and then jump right into show music? If you focus on the chop side of things and just make the packet fun, that can be very motivating for some percussionists and make it so they actually want to practice. If you focus just on the technical side of things, it might be boring for somebody who's just mainly there for like the social reasons rather than for like, I want to make this my career. That's something that like educators need to consider. Not everybody is there for the same reasons you are. Another thing that you need to consider is that there's a concept of null curriculum where you have to consider not only what you are going to teach intentionally, but what you are intentionally not going to teach. And that's very important to consider. As a former curriculum developer, I would think through, here's what I want students to be able to learn. But then there's what teachers actually teach, which is the taught curriculum. So that's a layer below that. Some teachers might look at this and go, oh, okay, well, that's cool. I want to do that. But I want to supplement by adding in this thing or by removing this thing. But then there's also what is embodied. So what do students actually learn from that experience? So if you're like you're doing a warm-up packet, they might learn that drumming is fun, or they might learn how to have like better controlled grace notes and flam accents, etc. But then there's also like the tested curriculums. Like, what are you actually tested on? What do you actually focus on? So like if you have performance tests, what does that focus on? Does it include flams? Does it not include flams, etc.? But then there's also the hidden curriculum, which are like the things where you kind of steer students towards, I want you to learn this thing without necessarily explicitly saying it. And then there's the null curriculum, which is like the thing that is omitted out of that entirely. So there's many different layers of curricula, but those are like some considerations for how long a warm-up should be